Let me go try my PEGN tool. Where is it? If I have an error, I'm trying to get an example here. PEGN testing. This is some test data here. No metadata in here. All right, so that's how PEGN renders the AST in long form. I can actually do short form as well, and the short form is nice and terse so that it can be parsed really effectively, as the most effectively possible through JSON. But the problem is, there's anything wrong with that, that the error messages are a little bit off, and I might have to go through and tweak some of them to get them to be positioned. The reason that that's an issue, so if I go over here and I break something, right? So if I say, well, it can't be with underscore, right? Well, that's relatively easy. It's going to give me the error. Say, sorry, expected the definition commit line end line while parsing grammar at the underscore position 111. So that's correct. But if we move it and we put it right here, if I say simple and I put like some illegal character in here, right? It'll give me a different error. Oops, I shouldn't have parsed actually. That's interesting. I shouldn't have parsed. Oh, I might have another bug. I think that is allowing that because it's thinking that it's a negative look ahead. Well, so much for that. Let's do, I don't know, let's do this. Let's put like some random thing. That's definitely an error. So that should be, why are you not, oh, no, it's not an error. Never mind. Well, the fact that it's not reporting it as an error is an error. And I just, yeah, I definitely have another error in here. But the one I'm trying to get is to get it to report to the right thing. This is still alpha software. This is the first command tool to use the AST. It could be in the grammar. In fact, I'm sure it's in the grammar. So that actually worked. It just, let's not do this version. Let's do the easy version. So yeah, this just read all the way up to the star. It's like, yeah, you're fine. And then anything after that is an error. So just forgot it. And that's not chopping. That's a different error. I'm going to go add that right now. So new issue. So we have, error. Well, actually, I think I relatively recently added this because I didn't want to have to check for the any character after the end. This is the whole not. Error related to removing not any false I don't know if it's a false positive. It sort of is a false positive. The following should not pass. I really, really, really want to start. It's all like a chicken and the egg situation because I want to write. My comma mark is done. They have this huge README file that has code blocks that it uses to put examples and then what the AST should be afterwards. And I definitely want to add that, but it's kind of as I can't do that until I can start parsing the thing to get those example tests out of there and then generate them. So I need some test generation. So it's almost like I need the tool in order to generate some of the other tools that are going to be really awesome in terms of auto-generating test code. And I keep hitting these tiny little things. I mean, the main grammar works fine. So these are the final bits of polish that have to happen before we go with a 1.0 release. And that's why I have it, pulled back. And it's just a 1. It's just an alpha. I do 1.0 alpha on this. So I'm going to actually include this specific example I just ran into in this issue. Currently, it is it is parsing without an error as but only returning up to but only returning part of the AST. All right, so let's do this. This JSON. I mean, it's actually marked down if you're not aware, not familiar with that. It's one of the reasons I like being able to have the AST as JSON, because then I can have it, pretty. All right, so I could just cat that actually. Oopsie. God damn it. Please tell me I did not just delete the whole thing. I think I did. I am so bad today. You know what it is it's like I sometimes forget I'm using a graphic interface. Not sometimes, often. I'm just going to pretend like there's a PEGN type, which there isn't. It would be cool if there were. This is all screwed up, so I have to get that again. Play and check I'm in 0. I'm going to copy the whole thing over. Here we go. I'll paste that in there. Preview. Hey, pretty. What kind of issue is this? Milestones, labels, definitely bug. There's a critical bug. Some issue. It's been fun actually using Git properly. I know everybody out there is like, oh, I use Git all the time. I have not had a lot of collaborative experience using Git on a large team. I've done a lot of little contributions here and there, but it's kind of fun to actually run a project. I'll tell you what, a lot of it is different on GitLab from what I was doing on GitHub, and it's not necessarily better. That particular part of it, the software management, is not very good. Other than permissions. Permissions are really great because you can set them for an entire group, and then all the projects under that group kind of, descend down. So, but that's actually not the bug I was working on. So I'm going to return to the bug I was working on and try to recreate that. So the bug I have is that if there's something out of line, the position is incorrect. So if I put it like this, you can't end with an underscore. Right. Hopefully this will be one. Let's try. So, yep, there we go. So, and the reason for this is because it's trying to parse this piece out. And what it's saying is, okay, so the entire rule for parsing this thing, is a definition, and then, so, let's see, expected definition and come end of line. So, end of line plus. So it got through all of this, okay? And then it hit this thing right here, which wasn't there actually. Let me cat that. Get a fresh one. And then it got to the underscore, which it got the position right. So let's look at here. So no, it didn't. No, it didn't even occur the position. I think what's happening is it's what's it called? It's doing the revert, because it's the entire thing that was being parsed. And see, that gives you a hint of that. So this is, so it was parsing grammar, which was, the top level thing. And that could not work. So it couldn't even parse this is a definition. So the definition failed. So in this case, the definition failed, but it's not being broken down into detail. And that's something I kind of want to look at, because I would rather have it show the exact character that's causing the problem. And I we only added errors recently, so I added at least minimally something that was an error instead of just nil. And I always knew that we were going to have to add that, but I have a feeling we're going to have to zoom down and get really really precise, and probably not roll back the position of the parser when we get those errors, which is what we're doing right now. So this also makes me want to be able to trace the parser per character when it hits an error. I want to do that graphically at some point. So we need to do this. We need to look at the grammar and kind of trace what it's doing. So let's also look at the spec. So the spec itself is, again, spec, the grammar spec is at the very top. So we get a grammar, and it's got meta copyright and licensed. It skips all that. And it comes to comment, and it skips all that, and then it gets to, this is the line. So it gets the definition and comment line. And definition is the first thing it's trying to parse, but it's not telling us that precisely. It's telling us though that the error is happening while it's trying to parse grammar, which means it's in the grammar parser. So we can go look at the grammar parser here, and maybe have to do some low-level stuff. It's going to take me a while. I have a feeling we're going to be in this apartment at least, I would think, probably a year or more. Yeah, still looking for contract work though. That includes Canada. And I did reach out to a few people today, contractors. Let's see what happens there on the ongoing saga where Artebix Rob and Artebix wife are going to live over the next year or so. So here we go. We have this grammar thing that's being parsed, and it's actually tripping on this. So, but it's not throwing an error. And that is a sort of lazy way to do it. I'm also kind of pausing because I want to see if there's some way to get more precise with the errors in a way that can be code generated. And we haven't got into that yet. That's going to really be a can of worms. It's not, I mean, it's doable, but it's going to be fun. Messing with the front end again. Huge problems with the latest Ubuntu Firefox today. Oh wow, I have no idea. I just restreamed everything. So this is one of those cases where, because the entire thing is optional, can't write a parser without off by one errors. So because we have this plus here, we have to count up them all, and all the errors that happen are insignificant until, actually all the good parsing that we do is sort of insignificant until we come out of the loop. And when we come out of the loop, then we have to say, oh, right? And we have to say, okay, yeah, so if I didn't get anything there, then that's a problem. And the problem with that is that I can't specify the exact line where there was a problem. So that is, that's a problem. So when it tries to throw the error down here, the error, it might actually not be enough by one. We're going to go see, but the error it gives you is sort of, not useful. It's not sort of, it's just completely useless, because it says, hey, the error is in the definition command line, the end, and that's not a fine enough grain. There's no way I could highlight that. I'd have to highlight the whole definition. So what this means is that my error handling down here is not good enough, which means I have to come up with a different way to do that, which will ultimately become a template for a code generator, so that we can generate more precise errors. It also means that I'm probably going to be doing some error tweaking on the whole thing instead of just fixing the parser. I'm at this point, I'm not even convinced that it's off by one error. Having seen this, I thought it was. This might actually just be that the parser's not giving us enough information, and we need to capture that information closer to when the error happens, as opposed to just punting. therefore, that means I need to set some things up here. So one of them is going to be, so like error, I need like an error pause or something. I don't know. I'm just going to riff it for right now. Um, and let's see. It says, um, I mean, let's see. Let me think about the logic. Logic might not even be solid here. So if we grab, if we get the if we, So I think there's something wrong with the logic too. So let me go see here. Because I have to think about these things harder than other people because I'm not smart. But here we go. So if I do something, what I'm trying to decide is where does the error get thrown? Right now the error should be thrown if I get that character and it's not in the thing. But we have a problem there because, you might just be, if you have at least one of them, then you might be trying to parse another thing that looks like one that isn't, but that's not critical. That's a mouthful. But so let's say, you go through a whole one full definition command line combination. If you go through that, you should be able after that to be fine. But since we need to gobble them all up with the plus, we try to gobble another one up. But what if we gobble the next one up and only half of it fulfills it? I'm like, oh, well, if I was expecting an entire thing, then I should throw an error. But it's actually not an error because what you're gobbling up might look like it's a part of another definition command line, but the fact is it's not, and it's totally valid. And so we have to roll it all the way back, throw it out, and not count it. That's why we have to count all of the matches. So if but when we do have an error, we need to figure out where that error is. And I think I might have just answered my own question because, I did. I answered my own question. So we need to keep track of stuff during this loop iteration. And it'll be being updated every time. Every time we're going to get a different error and a different node location. And that's fine. That's fine. That's going to give us the granularity we want. And then down here, if count is 0, we're going to have more precise information about the error. Because this error is only related to this rule. And that's the granularity we want. All right, so I think I answered my own question. So we just have to keep track, besides count. How's it going, Rook Zerker and Lordsme? How's it going? So we're going to go ahead and keep track of this error. Let's see. We already have that error, which is a different error. So actually, no, look at that. We have the error already because we're capturing it here. So if we have it breaks out and it has the error, and the error, I don't think the error has a position in it though. I don't remember. So actually, let's try this. Let's say expected. Actually, expected is not what we want. I don't know if we even want an expected here. We probably want something that says what the error is. So we're going to return. I'm just going to do this. I think. No, that's an error that's got the node and the parser location in it. No, it's going to be the right error. Oh man, this is going to be fine then. So yeah, let me think here. So it's just an error. Yep. All right. So let's do this. So this is, we have a nil, and then we have yeah, we have an error. I don't know why I didn't notice that before. That's it. That might be that might be the fix. If that's the fix, I'm going to be sort of pissed. So yeah, I mean, yeah. All right, here we go. Blah. I'm gonna have to recompile this because the way I'm testing it right now. I do actually need to write a test case for this, but let me just, since I started testing using this tool, I'm gonna do that anyway. Go install. So all right, so let's try our other PEGN test. So there, look at that. Expected schema def, cache def, class def, token def while parsing definition at S011. So guess what? We have the same problem there. Do I also use Rust? No. Nope. I might someday. Someday I might do Rust, but why? Tell me why I should code in Rust. It's fast. It'll keep you safe. It'll make you a good programmer. It's got no garbage collection. So... but I'm not against Rust, but I don't pick Rust for 99.9%. It is not fun. It's not fun. Rust is not fun. Rust is fun for people who want to pretend they're smart and feel like they're smarter than everybody else. I grew up in the there was an entire sort of generation that was the Linux and Perl people in the 90s were a lot like the Rust people, and I was one of them. That's why I recognize them. You eventually become a friend of the borrow checker. Okay. Yeah, that's a cute one. Bye-bye. Run along. I think look, I have said over and over again, everybody should learn Rust to become a better programmer. Should everybody code everything in Rust? Hell no. Maybe if you're writing an application in C++, it should be rewritten in Rust. There are lots more important criteria for picking a language than the stuff that Rust sets out to address. Lots more important things. So seriously, 90% of applications that are created do not need what Rust provides. And it misses the boat. People pay for it. It takes them longer to make stuff. Talk about maintenance headaches. Oh my God. All right. As I've said before, I'm not against Rust. I'm against Rust for the wrong application. So, and yeah. GitHub is littered with dead projects of people experimenting with Rust and then dropping it because it was way too hard to maintain because it doesn't match. That's what I just said. C++, I hate C++ more than Rust. C++ is a big lie. It calls itself object-oriented programming. It's not. It's class-based programming. Jim Copleen. Yep, GoTo conference, 2009. Go look it up. I hate Java, but I coded in Java. I was headhunted into IBM to code Java for years. I gave conference talks on Java to 500 people, sorry. And, yeah. Yeah, well, it's not. You guys don't know what object-oriented programming is. I'm not going to talk about it. You don't know what it is. Go watch the video from Jim Copleen about what object-oriented programming actually is, where he says that Java is the only language you cannot code object-oriented programming in. C++ is another one. He doesn't mention it. Nobody knows what OOP is. Even the guys who made Smalltalk didn't know what object-oriented programming is. And it's hilarious the level of misinformation that has permeated mainstream computer science and programming. I was just laughing and blogging about that yesterday. Because everyone's like, you must have like deep knowledge of object-oriented programming. Like, you don't even fucking know what object-oriented programming is. Who cares exactly? As long as you're having fun, that's all that matters, right? Yeah. You just use there's concepts from OOP that are really great. Like, encapsulation, not polymorphism. That's GoTo on steroids. Although GoTo gets maligned inappropriately a lot of times. GoTo is a really appropriate pick. The fact that Go has it just shows how brilliant the guys are that made it. Back to what I was doing. As I was talking about, let's do something else. So let's do I'm going to do the same thing with definition this time. And I'm going to try to zero in on this guy. I think it has the same sort of problem. That ultimately what's going on here is that I want to get more specific error messages. I think that last one, we're not going to really know if I have an off by one error until I can get the error message to be like really zoned in on the specific character. And right now they're not. Right now they're just a general thing. Like, you saw that error I just got. It's like, hey, you expected one of these things while parsing definition, blah, and I got an S. And so S is just the beginning, which means it rolled back before it gave us the error. And really what we wanted to see is the underscore here. So this is sort of an error checking sort of thing. I think more than it is an off by one, which is good news. That means my parser's fine, knock on wood, and my error handling is off, and that's totally fine by me because that would have been a factor of code generation and not the parser itself, which is a more significant bug. All right, so let's take a peek here. Because I mean, it's not wrong. It's not lying here. It actually is one of these things. That's not there. So then we'll go back here and do this. We have the class token, schema def, check def, append node error. So if we have the error here, pigeon node child. Yeah, you know what? This I feel rather foolish. I'm just gonna say, I feel rather foolish. Expected should only be at the low level. So here I can just put error here, right? Yep, that's what I should be able to do. Lazily made. You have no idea what you're talking about. That's one of the most beautiful things ever conceived. Command line said to put in the file once. It just feels just very half-assed. We're done talking. You have no idea what you're talking about. Do you even know who made it? Can you name the person? Do you know why those decisions were made? Do you know anything about compiler optimization at all? Obviously not. So, look, dude, you've just shown your colors. I appreciate you coming on the stream, and we can have some fun fight me stuff. If you want to stay tuned and watch, maybe I'll accidentally talk about one of those things while we're here. But you have like a lot to read about before you can make those kind of statements. Yeah, you really don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You're the epitome of clueless right now, and you're a good person. You're a great person. You're probably a very active, enthusiastic programmer who wants to learn more and compare things. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So I'm not attacking you. I'm just saying you got a lot to learn before you can make those statements. The dude who invented Go invented Unicode, wrote his own operating systems, partially invented the Unix operating system and the C language. So to call his creation half-assed without actually understanding his decisions is at best dubious. So there you go. Yeah. Meanwhile, Rust falls out of somebody's ass like Node while they're playing around on some Saturday drinking beer. That is not a seriously, Node and Rust are accidents. Of course you prefer Rust because you don't know what you're doing. I'm sorry, you don't. You don't know about languages. You haven't studied more than one language apparently. If you had, you would understand how the actual compilation works and why those decisions were made and why garbage collection was let in, instead of parroting some Rust cult shit about garbage collection and borrow checker, which is completely typical of the Rust community, by the way. Completely typical. So it's actually one of the greatest liabilities against the whole community is that there's so many of these people in this, and I've seen this before. Node was the same way. You know who else was bad about this? CoffeeScript people. Holy shit. The CoffeeScript people were the same thing. They would come in like guns blazing and had no idea what they were talking about. No idea. Python, JS, Java, Kotlin, and Rust. Well, there you go. One compiled language. You have no CS background. So, knowing them and actually having a significant project with more than 1,000 lines in it which is why I also temper my own statements about Rust, because I haven't done a large project with Rust. But I've done enough projects of the mega size that I can say what I can say about Rust just looking at it on the outset. And it's in perfect, complete agreement with the conference talk people who are giving presentations on Rust and stating its liabilities and downsides. But, you know, the Rust fanboys continue to do their work, citing things like the most beloved language on planet Earth by a bunch of ex-Node developers who answered statements on Stack Exchange. And Dusty, you know what I'm talking about. Now, Dusty is somebody that I respect in this room because despite all of our arguments and everything, we can still say, here's the right tool for the job, here's the right tool for the job, and I can be motivated to actually port this thing I'm writing in Go right now after it's finished in Go, because it's going to take me 1/2 the time, if not more, in Rust. And I plan on porting it to Rust just as an academic exercise. And then we'll see, right? So there we go. But saying that it feels half-assed is so out of bounds. I just cannot even say. How does Go solve this? Do you actually have to specify all those on the command line every time you build ortools? We're talking about all the GC stuff? You're probably talking about generator stuff. I don't know what you're asking. I'd have to go look. Maybe I missed one of your messages. Sorry. All right. So output in main file. I don't know what you're talking about. It's just got built-in compilation. You just do go install. It didn't do anything. I'm talking about standard output. Don't even get me started on the last line doesn't get a semicolon shit. The syntax of Rust is abysmal. Abysmal. That's why their compiler will never, ever be fast. Vim is evil. Hi, Zafida. Or Zapida, how do you say her name? Zafida. All right, so I'm like zoning in on this, fixing this up. I don't think it's an up by one at this point, even though my status still says that. Zafida? That's a nice name. And so what I'm going to do is provide a little bit more information here and try to get this to work. If an error statement, return nil. Why is not error? Error is defined up here. That should be plenty good for a kernel, but it's always taken. Nice. I have to specify output in main file. God, no. You don't know Go at all. That's like first day of Go training. Up to the same place and give them the compiler for it. No. Yeah. Look, Lord, you're welcome to be here, okay? You're welcome to be here. We're happy to help you, okay? Okay, I gotta pull myself back here. You obviously are inexperienced, and we'll help you, okay? You don't have to provide that every time, of course not. So, diff. Oh, let's see here. So we return. Oh, this is a parenthesis, for God's sakes. Why didn't I catch that? All right. So what do we got? So that actually will compile. And then I'm going to do this one. Oh, hey, we're getting closer. We're getting closer. This has been a good exercise. I'm glad I'm doing this. Yeah, it's just part of the error checking. So I have a really strong feeling that this is going to be working just fine. It's just we have to just zone in on the error, zoom in on the error. Token dev. All right, so Dusty, we're gonna do it. We're definitely gonna add it. So, yeah, I need to fix these errors, and then I'm gonna zero this out. So it'll be a 1.0, and then he gets a nice clean commit history on that. What options? You're talking about compiler options? You put them in the generator lines in the file. The end. It's like, yeah, well, it's okay. So that's what yeah. We're done here. You need to read more about Go. The end. Go practice being an autodidact and research this stuff. Do a search on the internet. Yep. Google that shit. You'll get it. The stuff that you're asking questions about is not something I can answer in 1 or 2 sentences. So, you're asking monolithic questions about how Go works. Yeah. So I understand why you're asking those questions, because I made a mistake publicly on that video that Rust did not have embedded documentation, nor did it have embedded test cases. And I found out after the fact that it had both of those things because I hadn't done the research. And people beat me up over it, but I'm like, that's accurate. But my experience with it was enough to tell me right away that it wasn't going to be a language that anybody was going to be fast at writing. They'll be careful and they'd be good and they'd be better programmers, but they're not going to be able to write it quickly. I don't care. I mean, even Gamozo doesn't write quickly and complains about how fast and how long the compiler. I have a clip of that. I have a clip of Gamozo complaining about how slow Rust is for compilation. So, it's just knowing your tools. Just let me to make or similar tools. What he adds, no, you can use make, but you don't need it out. I still don't understand why you can't just do go install. Are you saying you're trying to tweak your borrow checker or do something special? I mean, you're trying to tweak your garbage collection or something like that, or trying to compile for a different language, a different target platform, or any of those things. An official compiler. Guadeloupe. Русский язык. Rust. Yeah, it uses CLang because it's not a real language. Let's be real. I know I have my basis for making that statement is that any LLVM, I'm sorry, it uses LLVM, any LLVM language, fundamentally it might be a grammar and it might be a language, but it can't hold a candle to a language that's written its own compiler and its own linker and all of that, like Go has done. And so when people say that it's like this half-assed thing, and I'm like, oh really? Because it has the most optimized compiler on planet Earth, and it was written completely from scratch, and it doesn't punt and use the LLVM like Crystal and Julia and all the other popular cross-platform languages do today. Well, if it's a language, that's probably a good question to ask, right? Why does everything have to be done from scratch? Specifying compiler options. Can we move on from this guy? It's just running for everyone else. Sorry, Greg. I'm trying to. You know what? Thank you for the reminder. I need a good conscience. All right, so let's do this. Let's go do. We have the error messages, which are we drilled down for those error messages, and now we're drilling down into the token defs. All right, so we have the token defs here, and I need to do the same thing again. We have all these errors, and then we don't use them, and I'm going ahead and doing this expected thing, which I have a feeling I'm going to have to toss. I don't think we're going to be able to use the expected, which is probably good, actually. This is going to be much easier to generate when we get into auto generation. So yeah, and again, it's kind of a recursive thing that's happening here. Let's see. This one is a little bit different because it's just doing an expect, so we have to generate it. So now this is the kind of place where we start wanting to see an expected error. And so this is where that helper function comes in handy, because this gives the exact position for all this stuff. If I wanted to, I could actually put inside of the expected thing an error. I know I'm like tempted to return an error from expect as well, and I probably need to do that. So, God, I am really tempted to. We're not going to be able to get the low level. We're not going to be able to get the low level. This symbol has a problem unless I start returning an error from the expected from the expect. And you know what? We dabbled with this last time, and I'm kind of glad we're hitting it. I know Quint's not here. If he were, he would be shooting me now. But I think we added two value returns to all of the parse functions without doing so for the expect function, and I feel like now we have very solid justification for doing that, because what this really should be is it should be uh, this really should be um, you know underscore error equals, and then it should be okay. So yeah, I'm trying to think. This should be here, and then what we should do here is we'd say if error. This is gonna be actually, this might be good news for Quint. If error does not equal nil, then return null on the error. We could get off of this whole expected shit, you know, and that's probably going to be better. I'm going to play around with making this happen. This actually is a change, but it's really needed, because when these things fire off and they fail, they're never going to get to the level of the single token that triggered it, the single letter or word that null error. What are you talking about? If error does not equal nil, return nil. Oh, thanks, sir. Thank you. All right, so this is a different thing. Thank you, Greg. I'm going to go ahead and make this happen. This is something I probably should branch. I didn't say LLVM is bad. I said it's not the same as a language like Go that doesn't depend on it. Like, well, why is it a lesser language if you use LLVM? Well, number one, you have a secondary dependency on something that unnecessarily. That's what happens if LLVM changes their direction. Your whole language is tanked. So they're not going to do that, obviously. But I think LLVM is great, but I stopped categorizing languages against LLVM that are actual languages. So I'm going to go ahead and mess with the expect statement. This is going to, if I decide to go with what I'm about to change here, it will break. It will break everything, and I'll have to change that. It's going to take me a while to change that, but that's fine, because I think this is a healthy break. How's it going? So let's do that. I'm gonna pull this testing up a bit. So yeah, looks like it. Yeah, returns one value, two mismatch. We just broke that on purpose. All right, so I'm kind of shifting gears here. So I want to. I'm going to take a break, and this is a good place for me to take a break and come back. So I'm going to be dropping the stream. I apologize for those of you who are going to get served an ad or something while I do this. This is my way of changing this subject so that the YouTube videos end up being matching the topic. And since I've now identified that it's not a one-off error, it is something I can do better in the parser. So the conclusion of this stream. I'll be right back, guys. I'm just going to go grab some coffee. I'll be back in like 10 or 15 minutes, so don't worry. You'll get a notification, but it'll have a different title in it. So what I am about to do is what I've concluded is that the expect is not giving us the level of granularity that we need, even though it's this really wicked awesome pseudo syntax for rendering PEG grammars. That unless I have expect returning an error, I will never have the ability to identify the exact character that a parsing error is happening. I can give the general area and stuff, but that's not enough to me. I want to be able to have the exact character, so I can highlight it in whatever I'm writing. If PEGN, go have a peek at PEGN.dev. So those of you who are just coming here, Go ahead so yeah, PEGN.dev will give you all that information. Um, uh, so so that's what's going on. Greg, I'll be right back, and we'll jump into the expect uh, stuff. And all we're really going to do is cause it to return a useful error. So that we don't have useful errors for parsing functions, but yet not have useful errors for expect and check calls. I think actually that I'm going to try to make the I'm going to put expect and check are both going to change their function signatures, which is that's like a breaking change. And so we're still working on the alpha 1.0 in case you're wondering. So yeah, and what am I doing? What is this for? I'd rather not go into depth on that right now, but I tell you what, I will promise you a video on that at some point where I can go through the overall approach of PEGN and why we're doing it. So that there's just one video that I can tag out there and you guys can go look at it. Okay. But the bottom line is this: we are creating a system where all things can be broken down into their abstract syntax trees. And then once you have anything as an abstract syntax tree, you can combine and alter and program. You can program those things. You can think of sort of regular expression substitution on steroids. And when you combine those things, you can do whatever you want. It makes everything very powerful. So pretty much every form of communication on planet Earth is some form of grammar. And we found out yesterday that one of those grammars is actually musical notation. So the idea of embedding musical notation within a markdown file that could be played, the really crazy, amazing thing about this is if when you break everything down into its AST, you could create an application that has some sort of vocal processor that can read you the entire markdown file and then sing you the song. And nothing can be processed until you break it down into a grammar. And this is why people like Chomsky have equally given attention to natural language grammars and computer language grammars, because it's all the same. So if you really want to get into computing and making things work and happen and integrate them, you have to break things down fundamentally into their smallest parts, and that is what this is all about. We're creating hopefully a universal, just for me anyway, syntax to represent grammars in general, and then those grammars can be combined. So one practical example of that is, say you have a JSON file and a YAML file, and you want to combine them in a way that maintains the comments and white spacing and everything, and then you want to generate a new file of either type. That procedure cannot be fulfilled without turning both into an abstract syntax tree and then combining those things and then rendering the resulting abstract syntax tree through programming that walks through the tree of nodes in a rooted node list, which is a classic data structure from data structures and algorithms. Then you can go ahead and render that. This is how the World Wide Web works. It's how word processors work. It's how conversational assistants work. It's how it all works. All right. Inferior LLVM dialect. I know you are, Dusty. I was just having fun. You know that to me languages are about being practical, but I do think that that's a funny little side note, and it only comes up when people attack Go as a quote unquote half-assed language. Okay, I'm going to take